So as I've said, my administrative role in the school is Director of Admissions, but my kind of academic title is Lecturer in Cellular and Molecular Biology. And we are getting a number of questions, and those questions kind of are very similar. So I'll just go straight ahead and start answering them. The first question is there a high chance of remote learning for the whole year? And the answer to that is it's not our current plan. We obviously have to comply with government restrictions. You know, we can't endanger anyone, but we are planning certainly blended learning in semester A with an aim to include much more face-to-face learning in semester B. However, kind of it's an interesting question really, because, well, I'll explain that one of the next questions. What our plan is that lectures, rather than being in a lecture hall, will be now recorded beforehand. So instead of a 60, well, in a 60-minute lecture slot, I would deliver a 45-minute lecture. And students will watch that live. And we have a camera at the back of the room anyway that records that for people that don't see that. What we're now doing is we're recording all of our lectures professionally in 15-minute slots. So what we'll now ask you to do is we'll say we're going to meet, so that slot in your timetable that would have been a lecture last year will now be a workshop or a tutorial or a seminar. And you'll be asked to kind of watch the videos yourselves, kind of whatever time is convenient for you. And then in the workshop, it'll be a much more kind of interactive kind of session. So we'll go through example problems really, and we'll kind of have a debate about it. And we'll answer any questions people are uncertain of. The real critical question is social distancing. So as you can see, this is one of our big lecture halls. I think this is the one in Arts 2. Our bigger lecture hall ordinarily holds about 100, 120 people. The green squares here are the seating, permitted seating under 2 meter.
Sorry, Chris, just to interrupt, we can't see your screen.
You can't, am I not sharing my screen?
No.
Ah, hang on. Sorry about that. There we go. Can we see it now?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. So, sorry guys, so here's the picture I was trying to show you. This is our, I think it's a Skeel lecture theatre, one of our larger ones. As I said, here's the kind of seating plan, 120 seats, which for big lectures are usually full. For a lot of lectures, class sizes are a bit smaller than that. So we tend to reserve lecture theatres like this for our really, really popular subjects like biomedical science and things like that. These green squares are the seats that can be filled under 2 meter social distancing. So as you can see, the capacity goes down from about 120 to about 25. So the real point is this picture, which is kind of a lecture in one of our buildings. This kind of teaching, because of COVID-19, is not going to be feasible. And it's probably, in all honesty, not going to be feasible for the entire year. The real question comes down to what happens if we're at 2 meters social distancing. So at 2 meters social distancing, as you saw, our lecture theatre really cannot hold very many people. And we have to kind of ask ourselves, is it really worth people's time to come into that room? So in reality, we could maybe host a live tutorial in one of our large lecture theatres. We would certainly have that ability. And in all likelihood, we would reserve that for people who don't have the kind of equipment and capacity for online learning. We have to ask ourselves as well, is it really worth risking you know, public transport to come in for a tutorial like that? So under 2 meters social distancing, the majority of teaching will be done remotely, but interactively. So actually what I've got now is a screenshot of our system, which is called QM+. We've had this for years now. It's an online system which we use anyway. This is my page, so this has got all my teaching on it. And on that, each of these pages is where you get all your lecture notes, the videos of the lectures that we record anyway. So this system's kind of fully set up for that. So your lecture material, like the material you'd have to watch before the workshops and tutorials, would be accessible there. This is also how you submit homework and how we kind of give you feedback anyway. But again, this has been in place for about 4 or 5 years. The tutorials and the workshops and the seminars will be smaller groups. So typically a tutorial holds, 10 to 20 people in a tutorial anyway. We usually go and sit either in an academic's office, or we'd sit in a kind of, I'd book a room out for the afternoon. And we'd have much more of a kind of discussion about a topic, really. Or I might get students to give me a presentation on some research they find interesting, things like that. We will do this now via this kind of platform that we're using here. So you see, I'll be able to see your faces, you'll be able to see mine, lucky people. And then it's quite an easy system in which to kind of share information and discuss scientific topics. We will have some face-to-face teaching, of course, even under 2 meters, but it's going to have to be a small number of people in large halls. And that will probably not be that common and that often. So I would imagine that would be things like assessments where students have to give presentations and things like that, or we have, some kind of in-person, some in-person group activity. We'd still be able to do that. It looks like, however, that we're probably, or possibly, the government is now discussing 1 meter distancing. If that's the case, then actually face-to-face teaching becomes very easy. So that diagram I showed you where our big lecture theatre only fit 20 people in it, that lecture theatre on a 1 meter now fits about 60 to 70 people in it, which is the typical class size, to be honest. So large lectures would be feasible. However, we're not going to do them, and I'll tell you that in one of the next questions why we're not going to be doing we're probably not going to be going back to the old way of big lectures. If there's no restrictions, then obviously we'll have more face-to-face meetings. You can just come into my office and talk to me. But as I said, we're not going back. Even if COVID-19 magically disappears, we're not going to go back to the traditional format. And I'll explain that in a second. So the next question is, will there be face-to-face learning? How will tutorials and practical classes work? So yes, as I said, there will be face-to-face learning, but there won't be any lectures. Face-to-face learning will be things that have to be done face-to-face. So there will be things like labs, so lab practicals, things like that. And there will be, again, kind of group debates, presentations, things like that. Again, under 1 meter social distancing, we can handle labs. I mean, if you look at this as a lab, this is a promotional picture taken. These actually are all my former students. Here's a lab. They're all bunched up to make a pretty photo, but if you notice, I mean, the lab is gigantic. You're more than 1 meter apart anyway, and legally in a chemistry or biology or biomedical lab, you're in PPE anyway, really. So under 1 meter labs are not a problem. Here's another picture. This is our biology lab, and again, it's a kind of vast room, and everyone's got slightly more than 1 meter of bench space anyway, and they're already in protective clothing. The thing that's missing in this picture that you'll have to wear is obviously face masks. Computer practicals as well. So I run, in 3rd year, I run a practical on using 3D computer graphics to look at proteins. That's done in one of our computer rooms. The setup of that as well is these desks are very, very isolated spatially from each other. We probably wouldn't pack this room out anyway, but we might have to schedule 2 classes rather than 1 and break a kind of large class into 2, but that's completely feasible. And this is one of the teaching rooms I teach in. I teach workshops. This has something like 140 seats. When I teach, I have 50 students in here, and they all tend to bunch up in little friend groups. So again, when I run my workshop this academic year, if I can in person, I'll kind of have to force them to sit 1 meter apart. But you can see from this image that the classrooms are well ventilated. and spacing is not going to be too much of a problem. We're definitely going to have a mixture of interactive online and face-to-face teaching. We're going to also run duplicate sessions. So not everyone, even when the restrictions are relaxed, there are going to be some people that can't because of health reasons or particular travel restrictions due to them. So we're now timetabling at the moment duplicate sessions to run at different times. So if you're in a different time zone, then you will have an option for kind of face-to-face meeting online with one of our academic staff. We're also going to very carefully timetable any physical kind of in-person meetings as well. So you're not going to have to come in for a 1-hour tutorial on Monday and then come in for another one on Thursday. Face-to-face, we are timetabling it so that you will have, you won't have to make a wasted journey, basically. Currently, our plan, just to be safe, is to move all the labs to semester B. Typically, what usually happened is semester A, kind of you're fresh in from your A levels, would get you in the lab immediately, and then semester B is much more theoretical. We're going to switch that around, basically. So your semester A will be theoretical, and semester B will be your practical labs. Again, that's under current restrictions. So if we go to 1 meter social distancing, we'll probably also run labs in semester A. Are there any plans to reduce fees? Oh, that's a good one. So I'll answer very honestly for that. No, there are not. And I don't think there's any university really, or any of the top tier universities that are really offering that option. The reason being is our delivery is not going to be reduced. In fact, personally, as an academic, I've never ever worked this hard on teaching. And I honestly think, and I'm not just saying this, as a promotional thing, I honestly think that you will have a better experience, dare I say. And I mean, the reason being, again, I'll share my screen. The reason being is that for every module you do, so in the first year, you might do essential skills in biology, essential skills in chemistry, essential skills in biomedical science, whatever. Each module, you have 30 hours of contact time. That's actually 30 hours in a room with an academic. And the previous way we did things, because I'll be honest, it's the very traditional way of doing things, and it's kind of it's light on our time. 15 of those 30 contact hours would be like this. So I'd be that's not me, but I'd be at the front of the class giving a 1 hour or 2 hour lecture, and you would be in this room. I'll be honest, whenever I ask if people got questions in a lecture, very, very rarely do they put their hand up. Some of them will come and see me afterwards. But lectures are not a very interactive or intimate experience, really. You will still have these 30 hours contact time. So you will still have your lectures. But now your 30 hours contact time will be workshops, and there will be tutorials, and there will be seminars. So those terms are probably new to you, being kind of straight out of A levels. So a lecture is a didactic experience like this picture, in which you basically, a lecturer talks at you and goes through slides or equations on the board. A tutorial is small group, and it's much more kind of interactive. So typically the format of a tutorial is a discussion or a debate. A workshop is typically where I'll have like example problems. So the kind of problems that you would get on the exam, we would go through some of those in the workshops. So one of my second year chemistry modules, I traditionally did 6 lectures and 3 workshops. Now that will probably be 6 lectures recorded, and that'll probably now go to 10 workshops, I think. So 10 practice sessions. So I think in terms of practicing material and talking to academic staff, you're going to get far more than you did before. Now the thing is, why this is part of what's called our 2030 strategy. So all of the research about teaching tells us that actually big lectures are not very, very effective. We already record our big lectures. And I'll be honest, so attendance of my lectures, like physical attendance of my lectures, maybe about 40, 50%. The videos of my lectures, that's 90, 95% of people. So those people are not attending my lectures. They're not disengaged and they don't fail. Actually, they do very well. They've just kind of decided that what works better for them is to watch the lecture in the comfort of their own home, and then come and see me typically to discuss matters. So the college knows that actually this form of learning where students watch a video on the material and then their contact time with their academic is much more interactive. We've been taught that this is what we have to do. And there's been a lot of resistance, obviously, because academics are kind of old fashioned. And, you know, well, I've always done this, you know, I've always kind of stood in front of a blackboard and wrote equations. So you know, and that was good enough for me when I was at university. So that's what I'll do. So we were making this change anyway. COVID-19, of course, has forced our hand a little bit. But this is what I mean when I say that if COVID-19 miraculously disappears, we are not going back to the traditional format at all. So from now on, lectures will be videos, and your 30 hours will be interactive. There will be workshops and tutorials. And I honestly think that's going to be a far better kind of educational experience. Let me share my screen again. So the next question, how will living on campus actually work? Well, again, we don't know 100%. This is very uncertain. But our campus actually never closed. So we've had students living on our campus and currently living on our campus. Those that needed it, you know, those that couldn't go home. So we have a lot of students from overseas. They were still living on campus. There is this idea of, you know, they have to maintain social distancing. That is being relaxed now to a certain extent. But of course, when you're living on campus, you're going to have to practice kind of social distancing. You're going to have to practice kind of disease control measures like washing your hands and not touching and wearing face masks and things like that. There's this idea of protective bubbles. You know, so you will be in close contact with a group of people, and people outside that group, you'll have to maintain a kind of a physical distance when you're talking with them. Obviously, a big part of university is not just kind of learning, it's joining societies, it's, you know, kind of the social side of things. We have induction and welcome week. What is that going to look like under kind of social distancing? And the honest answer is we don't really know. This is a picture from previous years. As you see, most of the activities are outdoors. This is crowded, but actually we have a lot of open space on campus. This is in front of the Fog building. So induction week might be a bit less frantic and might look, you know, a bit less like this and a bit more kind of spread out. We might run induction week longer, you know, just because obviously numbers will be restricted. We'll have to kind of let people come in, you know, talk to people about fairs and societies and things like that. And then we'll have to kind of like arrange some fair sharing system. But it's completely feasible, I think, to have these kind of outdoor activities. We've also got, like, a lot of these activities take place in very well ventilated large spaces anyway. This is what's known as the Octagon. It was once our library. Now it's a kind of meeting / performance / kind of teaching space, ceremonial space. As we say, this is kind of like this is some kind of outreach event. There's plenty of space in which people can still come and engage with that while maintaining, you know, that 1 or even maybe 2 meter distance. 2 will be difficult, obviously. I think it'll just be more outdoor events generally. The libraries as well, you know, 30 hours of contact time with us is a small part of your learning. The majority of learning at university is self-directed learning, but our libraries again are set up for social distancing. There will have to be some, you know, fair use policy, you know, but we have the space and the technology to kind of still allow some form of being on campus while, you know, maintaining safety. And again, our computer rooms. So again, if you don't have a computer, you want to come in and do some work, these are kind of set up for distancing anyway. How will you go back to the old style of teaching if restriction ends? That is a big fat no. I think I've explained that. We were migrating to this blended learning anyway. And actually we were really kind of like, oh, it's going to be loads of work. And I think we're all enjoying it now. All the academics are quite enjoying it. It's a really effective way to teach. I mean, when I record my lectures, I get to really perfect them. And when I give physical lectures, I might have a cold, or I might be tired, or, I might just not be on top of my game at that day. But this way we get to really perfect and tweak and finely tune our lecture material. And the best part of teaching is always the interactive tutorials and workshops anyway. Just because restrictions end, there may be people that have special restrictions that apply to them. We do have kind of current students that are stuck in other countries, maybe. So our restrictions might have ended. Other countries might not. We might have people who have particular health problems that require them to kind of shield, as the government calls it. We've made this kind of cast iron promise that there's not going to be any detriment to anyone. So as I say, we're not going back to just standing in front of a blackboard lecturing. We are going to keep this blended learning forever, because it's what students have been wanting for years anyway. And anyone that needs remote learning, anyone that needs to kind of be on Skype with me rather than physically kind of in the same room as me, then they will get that. I mean, personally, if I have a single student who, because of medical reasons or travel restrictions, needs to have their own tutorial over Skype, then I'm completely willing to do that. No student will lose out because of this. And we have, sorry, I've gone on a bit longer. I'll go back to my final question. Why should I start in September rather than defer? So again, I think the honest answer is, I don't know. That's a decision I think you guys, have to make. The point of this is I want to answer very honestly. And I think, well, first, I think university is obviously going to be different. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So university is going to be, it's going to be different. I suspect it's going to be better. As I say, this extra hour, these extra 15 hours that you get with us, this extra exam practice is something we've been meaning to do but have never done before. The realistic point as well is universities can't defer everyone. We try to be as accommodating as possible, but we simply would not be allowed, and we do not have the capacity to defer everyone to next year. Because what then does that do to all of the current year 12s? So we can't just put everything on hold for a year. So the realistic option is going to be not deferring for the vast majority of people. The realistic option is not going to be deferring, it's going to be withdrawing. i.e., so you just withdraw and you have to apply again next year. Maybe I'm being a bit indiscreet in saying this, but I'll be honest, like this year, because of remote teaching, things like that, it's possibly a little easy to get into university this year. It is definitely next year, 2021 entry, I think is going to be the most competitive year on record. Because people applying for places then are going to be competing not only with everyone that deferred or withdrew this year, they're also going to be competing with current year 12s. They're also going to be competing again with international students and the international students from this year who couldn't go to university. It's going to be incredibly competitive to get into university at that point. The other things as well is, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, is what does a gap year look like under the travel restrictions and social distancing? Actually, I mean, one of the things you may want to do if you're applying for biomed is, volunteering for the NHS would be an exceptional kind of gap year. It'd be a brilliant thing to do. But other than that, you can't travel. Really, there's no international travel, so international volunteering would be very difficult. Or just traveling around for a year would be very difficult. The job market, unfortunately, again, is looking very, very poor. it looks like we're going to go into a pretty hard recession when this is over. So again, what does a gap year look like under these conditions is something I think that people have to think about. But obviously the answer is we want you to do what's best for you. And I don't want to push anyone or persuade anyone. I'm just trying to be really honest. I think I've kind of waffled on enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll before I start these questions, and then I'm going to launch the same question again. So if you guys could just answer, if you guys want to click, there's 2 questions here, which is how confident are you about starting university in September? I just want to kind of gauge how you guys are feeling. And then about what your concerns are. So if you guys want, again, it's totally anonymous. If you guys just want to click this. I have some concerns, okay. Right, I think we're more or less done. Yeah. Oh, I only got one more. There's two more people. If you don't want to answer, I'll just end the poll now. In that case, so let's share these results. So can everyone see that, Natasha? Can people see these results?
I can see.
Brilliant. Okay, so I asked. So okay. So there's some people are very confident about starting university. That's a good sign. The majority of people say they have some concerns, which I think is completely natural. And we've got some people that are unsure, and some people are actually thinking about deferring withdrawing. Far less than I thought we'd actually get. People's main concerns are the quality of online teaching, with reduced and limited social interactions. So we maybe get some questions on that. Also, people are very concerned about other concerns and COVID-19. So let's now open up question and answers. So I've already got 2 questions. So if you want to speak physically, like through the microphone, stick your hand up. But I've got now 2 questions. Is the CAS, the CAS process, open to international students who require a T4 visa? I think this is a question for the admissions manager, Natasha, if you want to join us. Yeah. Do you want to unmute?
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is open. You have to be unconditional firm in order to apply for your CAS. But as soon as you become unconditional firm, then you will be sent some information about how you can apply for it and what information you need to provide.
Okay. So the second one, but these are quite technical actually. So if you would like to stay online, Natasha, I think that's good. With the grade, with the 1 grade leeway for the entry requirements, is that per subject or overall? Well, actually, that's overall. We've dropped our entry requirements by a grade typically. In fact, yes, I will say this. So I'm going to give you guys a peek behind the curtain. I think, you know, we do read every application. I don't say that I personally read every application because that's thousands and thousands of applications, but our admissions team reads everything. So let's say, for an example, that you got offered A, B, B for, typically for biology, for example. And we've said now we're going to drop a grade, so it's going to be B, B, B. Fine. Now, what happens if you get B, B, C? Actually, the reason we've made you an offer is because we like you and we want you to come. It's not an automated process. It doesn't just go through some algorithm. We actually read them. We read your personal statement and we think, yeah, we like this person. The reason we invited you here is because we want you to come here. We like you. And we think you'd do well on our course. We think you'd enjoy it. So I'll be honest, if you've had a bad day or you've had a weird grade, this is a weird year anyway, and you've got a BBC, I'll probably make you an offer. Almost certainly. Am I being really indiscreet, Natasha? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think the only thing to mention is We will be stringent on the required subjects. So,
Oh yeah,
like Chris said, if it's BBC for a subject and the C is in the mandatory subject, then that's more of a concern for us. But
yeah, naturally. So
got the
obviously,
two
if it's if you've if it's B in biology, B in maths, and C in comparative medieval literature, then we'll be fine. But if you've got B media studies, they're fine subjects, by the way. I'm not taking the mickey. B in media studies and B in English literature and a C in biology, then that's I'll be honest, looking a little unlikely. But we are going to be even more flexible than we usually are. How does the enrollment procedure work? So I guess this refers to intro week. At the moment, we're not sure. Again, the critical point is this 2 meter versus 1 meter social distancing. We will obviously have kind of, the online enrollment anyway, but induction, whether that will be in person, we just don't know yet. I hope that answers the question. If not, you can re-ask it in a different way. For the overseas students who can't travel to the UK for semester A, will we be able to take the workshops and tutorials online as well? The answer is, of course, yeah, you will. We are going to absolutely make sure that there is no detriment to anyone. So what we will do in that case, and what our plans are, and how I'm restructuring my teaching, is we'll have a physical, if we can, a physical workshop, and a couple of online workshops. And I'll record those workshops as well. So we will absolutely not, if you need, for medical reasons or for travel restrictions, you need to be 100% online, then yeah, that's completely fine. You'll get exactly the same content. I hope that answers the question. I firmed my unconditional offer and now have less than 3 months to my course start date, but have still not received anything via email. What should I do? That's possibly a very specific question. If it's okay with you, I think would you like to email us that and we can look into your application specifically? If I've already deferred for next year, is it possible to apply this year? I'm not sure what that means. Natasha, do you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, if you applied for deferred entry when you submitted your UCAS application, or if you requested deferral later and you want to change your mind and come this year, that's absolutely fine. You just need to email us with your name and UCAS ID number, and we can switch you back to entry this year.
Excellent. Will societies be taking place? This is a difficult one for me to answer. So university societies are run by the student union. And actually the university charter means that they are autonomous, and that the university as an academic body doesn't have too much of a say over what the union does in terms of societies. I think, having looked and talked to some of my current students, that some societies are running pretty normally. I mean, if it's a society on, trying to think, something like anime or video games or kind of environmental issues and things like that, there's been a lot of kind of online events, kind of webinars with guest speakers and things like that, virtual kind of movie watching. If it's a sports club, if it's the football or the rugby club or whatever, I'm not sure. It's up to those societies what they do. I suspect they will go down the route of allowing you to play matches, but probably not. It'll be difficult. Football's difficult. Rugby's difficult. They're contact sports. They might not be able to run. Ping pong, things like that, maybe. So again, it's not a question I can really easily answer. But some are definitely, and the physical sports ones are going to have a bit of a challenge, I think. Here's another one. Will the classes be recorded if I'm unable to attend them online due to any medical or any other reason? Absolutely. So, yeah, as I said before, the lectures will be almost like the kind of it's amazing. So over this summer, what we've got is a load of middle-aged kind of scientists who are now discovering what YouTube is and watching. And this is quite good. So our lectures will be recorded professionally like this. They will be kind of rehearsed and edited, and they'll be really nice. The workshops that we do online will absolutely be recorded. And any physical session that we have, so a physical workshop, will be duplicated online as well. So again, no one will suffer as a result of this. in my teaching, I give, traditionally a lecture and then a workshop, and they're all workshops are very loose. So we all sit around with some example questions. I kind of say to people, do it in your own groups, help each other. That's the point. Help each other, ask questions. If you want to eat your lunch, eat your lunch. And I kind of walk about, people ask questions, and then I say, okay, I get the impression that, people are struggling with this, and I'll do it on the board. Workshops like that, again, will be very interactive. So what I'll do now is I'll pose a question. I'll then basically probably pose a poll to see how people answer it, anonymous, so no one feels so no one's scared of being wrong. And then I'll probably go through the exact solution or the exact point. So you won't be at any detriment. Right, where am I now? Will there be any support offered in terms of mental health? Yes, they will. So we have, so in addition to, so among my many roles, I am the senior tutor for biochemistry. And what that is I'm the kind of I coordinate what will be called your academic advisor. So when you come to university, you get an academic advisor. And their role is not, despite the title, is not teaching. There will be a teacher, there'll be someone you might at some point have lectures with, but their role is pastoral support. So, if you're having problems, if you're struggling with something, you come to your academic advisor, and they can offer help. They're like the kind of first line of help. It's a part of the job I enjoy the most, actually. And, university is very, very stressful. It's a big milestone in your life, so obviously you're doing some very high level thinking, your personal study. At the same time, you're going through a lot of life's you're moving on to the next phase in life. So obviously, you will need some help. One of the things I've noticed, though, is that all students at some point have a time when they need a bit of help. And all students also think that they're the only one that this has ever happened to, that they're the only one who feels like this. So the academic advisor is there to support you, and the academic advisor will still be there. It will be a conversation like this, or actually it'll be more like a Skype call, probably. If you need to come in and see me, then we can do that. But again, depending on the restrictions, it'll be social distancing and whether it's worth you making the journey. We'll have to weigh up those decisions. I, in the past, have gone with my students and gone with them to the doctors, for example, or I've kind of helped them find groups in London. I had one student who was just basically very homesick. She wanted to kind of watch Norwegian TV and eat Norwegian food, and we found an expat group of Norwegians in London. So we can, if you need my help in a physical sense, we can meet somewhere. Beyond that, we have our counselling service, and we have our kind of disability and dyslexia service, and we have our health centre. And all of those services will be running. Obviously, they will be running in accordance with government restrictions, but they will still be running. I mean, if the help you need, so you mentioned mental health, if that becomes a medical issue, then of course our health centre and our counselling service are completely open. That's a medical issue. Anyway, I hope I haven't missed anyone. I have firmed my unconditional offer and have already applied for accommodation. If I take semester A completely online, will I be able to use the dorm only for semester B? That's something I'm not sure how to answer. Natasha or Hilary, do you have an opinion on that?
I'm just typing a response.
Okay.
There is going to be flexibility offered, and to give them the website address for residences so they can get in contact with them directly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's getting a specific answer. How will we take, or will we have first year exams? So what we did at the end of this year is we went over to what we call alternative assessment. And again, this is another thing that we've been intending to for years, and it's part of our 2030 strategy. And situation has meant we've had to do it far sooner. So what our students did, instead of sitting exams, we set them rather challenging pieces of work. It's a better form of assessment, actually. So the external examiners have always told to all universities is that if your module comes with 25% coursework and 75% of that is on the exam. Now, because you haven't got your material in front of you during a physical exam, the tendency on exams is to ask questions that are very, that are more recall than problem solving. And actually, that's not a very good measure of, it's not a very good test of knowledge, really, is your ability to memorize something. We're constantly encouraged to develop assessments that are much more focused on synthesis of material, problem solving, and application. So what we did at the end of semester B, you have exams in January for your semester A modules, and exams in May, June for your semester B modules. What we did for the semester B is we wrote some new assessments. So, for example, I teach a module called membrane proteins in the third year in the third year of biochemistry, and where, you know, maybe in an exam I would say, you know, kind of describe the structure and function of ATP synthase, which is a protein. I asked much more kind of complicated and interesting questions. So I said, kind of, ATP synthase is often called a molecular motor. Evaluate to what extent that is true or false. And then they got 48 hours. And again, you don't have to write much. It's 1,000 words. You know, it's a couple of sides of A4. But they get 48 hours, and they've got their textbook, they've got my lecture notes and things like that. But I'm testing them on something that I haven't explicitly discussed. That all that is there, and there's no real right or wrong answer. This is a third year module, so this is really kind of deep stuff. But their whole approach there is much more kind of synthetic, and it brings things together. So I actually think it works a lot better. Sorry, guys, if I'm not answering these fast enough. I can see my assistants are typing answers to people. Will the lectures be organized on a daily basis, like what we are supposed to be taught on a certain day? Yeah, I mean, we timetable everything. So there will be a timetable. You will have an online, you will have a QM Plus, you will have a timetable or a diary. And it will be a list of your workshops, you know, if they're online, or, you know, if they're physical. Depending on social restrictions, we're not sure. If we go to 1 meter, I suspect you will have an option to attend the online one or a physical one if we need to. I mean, we're going to be careful not to run physical things that we don't need to. We don't want to put people at risk. But yeah, you'll have a complete timetable of what to do. The lectures will be now, it's like homework almost. It's like, you know, before this workshop, we suggest you watch these 3 videos. Giving your personal opinion, do you think students accepting offer this year or deferring it and trying in the next year is clever? My honest, candid opinion is I think it's, you know, people are justifiably concerned because things are going to be very, very different. As I said in my talk, we can't defer everyone. So the realistic option for the vast majority of students is not deferral, it's withdrawal. And it's going to be very, 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 very competitive next year. Yeah, because you're going to have a load of students, students from this year, students from current year 12, and two years worth of foreign students, in all likelihood, applying for the same number of places. So it's you know, look, market forces would dictate then that we could be very, very selective on entry requirements. So I think you have to answer yourself, would it be a shrewd move to apply next year? I honestly don't know. I honestly think it would be, personally, I would if I was going to university, I'd go this year. I think the idea of just spending 12 months social distancing in my house, no ability to kind of to travel, and you know, I don't want to spend 12 months watching Netflix, basically. I mean, it's you can say I'm in my house at the moment. I'm going back into my office next week finally, but you know, even talking to my students, kind of social isolation's been tough, I think. So I personally think it would be I think it's going to be good to start this year. But again, that's a decision I think you all have to make yourselves. Will the timetables remain the same each week in terms of days, etc., despite lectures being online and workshops? Yes. So the way we timetable things is we get a slot. So your essential skills in biomedical science module, for example, will always be on Wednesday morning. You know, we We do monitor attendance, kind of, and if we see someone really falling off and slipping off, we'll maybe talk to them and say, is everything all right? Do you need some help? But, you know, the way I teach my courses, I'm very flexible. If someone prefers to kind of go, you know what, it's 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, it's raining, and I kind of went out last night, and I'd rather just have a lie-in, and I'll catch up with the lecture later, I'll watch the video, I'm completely fine with that. But yeah, the actual events will be timetabled, and we'll have more of them, and they'll be more carefully timetabled so that they're not at awkward times for overseas students and things like that, and they'll be duplicated. But yeah, you will have like a regular timetable. So Thursday morning will be physical chemistry and things like that. Anything else? What was the maximum and minimum cutoff this year for choosing a student according to their predictive grades of class 12? That's a tough question. Natasha, do you have any? I don't think I can answer that really.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we don't just look at predicted grades, I'll be honest. We look at personal statements, references, and things like that. Sorry, Natasha, you go ahead.
It's okay. These are usually looked at on a case-by-case basis. So if a student's predicted grades are under the minimum requirements for the degree program, we'll look at what their predicted grades are, what subjects those are in. If we feel that they're close to what we're asking for, then we will make them an offer. If we feel based on the strength of their application that they may not get the grades required for the program, then we may ask them to consider taking a foundation program instead. So fortunately, I can't give you specifics as those are all on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. I mean, over start of spring and the start of summer, I personally have been, so you know, kind of central admissions will send us a case that is borderline, or and then Natasha and I'll kind of discuss it. We'll read, and Hillary will read the application over and over again. Sometimes we'll speak to people. We'll send them emails and ask a few questions and things like that. I personally, I'm not just the admissions area. I'm a teacher on this course. You know, I lecture biochemistry and chemistry. I'm a doctor of physics, oddly. I don't know, I found myself being a biologist, but you know, I know that this material is tough. I know that actually the most important thing for becoming a scientist is passion and enthusiasm. And I am definitely not going to punish someone. I'm definitely not going to not offer someone a place just because they had, you know, they made a bit of a mistake in the first year of their A-levels or whatever. I did the same. I was one of those kids. I was a smart aleck kid. I sailed through my GCSEs. I went to sixth form and I thought, well, I'll just coast through that as well. At the end of my first year sixth form, I got like terrible, horrible grades. And I really had to kind of turn myself around and start working very hard. And so I'm aware of this, you know, so we're flexible. And I'd much rather have a student who had wanted to do the subject because they loved it, had experienced a little bit of failure, and I think failure is a really, really good teacher. I think I much prefer people who've been through the ringer a little bit to kind of, you know, the 3A star wunderkind. They're great as well. But I think someone who has had a difficulty and picked themselves up and is passionate for the subject, they're amazing. You know, and they're great to teach. They often go on from a sticky start to doing PhDs and things like that. So again, there's no cutoff, you know, as such. Obviously, we have to beat grades. If you're predicted three Cs or 3 Ds, then that's unlikely. But we are flexible for that reason because, you know, we know the kind of people we want. Is there any more questions? Am I missing them? Giving your personal opinion. Will the lectures be honest? No, we've answered all them. Oh, there's one there. Will there be career advisors to guide us? Yes, there is. So your academic advisor does a bit of career guidance as well. But we actually have Dr. John Neild. Dr. John Neild is an amazing scientist. Actually, he's a pretty famous scientist in the field of plant photosynthesis. But one of his academic duties is career advice. So he works with our careers. We have an entire department for careers, and they organize careers fairs. They're in the process of organizing a kind of careers fair delivery like this, kind of probably a whole day of online events. Dr. John Neild, he works for obviously the School of Biology and Chemical Sciences. He is always happy to talk to people and frequently sends emails to all the staff saying, look, tell your students to come and see me to talk about careers. it's a bit of an underutilized resource, I think. But yeah, we will give career advice completely. I frequently give kind of advice to my students. Hope that answers your question. Do you anticipate professional placement years abroad to be greatly affected? Frankly, yes. And I'm really not sure how they work. Obviously, with international travel restrictions, year abroad can't work.
I would just jump in there, Chris,
yeah,
and say anyone who's on the year abroad, you would be taking that year abroad after your second year.
Okay, so it's long.
We are talking quite a bit in the future, and things are likely to be quite different by then.
Yeah, either human society has ended or everything's better, I think, at that point. Sorry, I shouldn't be so. And so work placements, again, in that case, like Natasha said, that's a few years down the line, and one would hope that things have settled down by that. Is there other relevant dates in August other than the 13th? Thanks. Natasha, do you want to answer this one?
I'm not sure what they mean. The 13th is obviously the release of A-level results. Yeah. The next significant dates you would need to think about is towards the end of August, you'll start to get pre-enrollment information. So you'd be required to pre-enroll online. And then obviously main enrollment takes place starting a couple of days before the start of term in September. And there's a lot of planning going on for that, I think, to offer part of it to be online and maybe on campus, depending on the situation at that time.
Oh, someone said, thanks for answering my questions. You're very, very welcome. I understand it's been really tough for you guys, and I hope that this has helped a little bit. Are there any specific books or articles that we should pre-read before the course starts? We actually sent out a communication about this, I believe. What we don't want people doing is going up and trying to buy textbooks, because they cost 30, 40 quid on Amazon. They're not particularly useful unless someone like me's there to guide you through it. What we have done is we've sent out to all our offer holders a reading list, and the reading list is like an optional kind of popular science reading list. So we've included some books that I read when I was your age that made me want to be a scientist and things like that. Some things to keep you kind of entertained, to maybe stimulate your mind, kind of for webinars that we're hosting, kind of things like that. But there's no kind of like revision or rehearsal material that you need to do. Our courses pick up kind of where your A levels or equivalent left off. So there's no pre-reading to do. You'll come in, and we're there really to start with you and give you all the support you need when you join us. As the Class 12 results yet to be declared, on what basis do you think the students should accept or defer the offer? That's a really tough one. On what basis? I don't know. I mean, I think, well, like I said, mass deferral is not an option anyway. So it would be rather more likely it would be accept or withdraw and try again next year. That is really something you have to, that is a really complicated question. And there are so many factors in that. Your personal circumstances, your kind of what you think you want from university. What I would advise is I think the problem is a lot of people coming from A-level don't really know what university is like. They don't really know what to be at university actually means. It's very, very different from school. And what we tend to find is people's preconceptions of what university is going to be like are generally wrong. So what I would suggest, on what basis, I would suggest ask us questions, talk to us, and do a bit of kind of thinking about what you want. There are pros and cons to everything. If you've got a good plan for an alternative next year, or alternative this year, then that might be something you want to do. If not, I strongly believe that the delivery this year is going to be really good. And again, I say, if COVID disappears, we're not going to go back to it. But that's something I think you have to answer yourself. Any specific books? Sorry if I'm missing questions. Has this reading list been sent to biology students? I've not received it yet. It has, I believe. Natasha, have those reading lists gone out yet?
Yeah, so we sent a newsletter a couple of weeks ago, and there was a video within the newsletter, which was actually a video that Chris recorded for us. And within that newsletter, there was a link to suggested reading lists based on your subject. If you haven't received it, then just send me an email. I will put it in the, I will answer your question with my email. Just send it to me and I'll send you another copy.
We're coming up to time, but there's a couple more. Can we run over a little bit? Or is that not really good?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. So, sorry if this was answered before, but I've heard some people have gotten lowered expected grades by Queen Mary by email. And I was asking if we're all going to get this email since I've just firmed fairly recently. I'm not sure what that means.
It might be, so all offer holders received an email saying that we would accept you with a 1 grade drop.
Yeah.
You accepted the offer. So that's relevant for everyone.
Yeah.
So even if you firmed us afterwards, that's absolutely fine. It was sent to people who hadn't yet made their decision, as well as people who had made their decision.
Okay, hopefully that answers it. Okay, there's will we have events with other London universities? So actually we're part of the University of London, so our other colleges are, the big ones are King's and UCL. Imperial seceded from us because they decided they wanted to be a European research institution. We've also got the London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene and all things like that. There tends to, there doesn't tend to be, it depends what you mean by events. We frequently do like popular seminars and kind of evening events with other universities, but kind of your day-to-day activity will be pretty much located within our college. Sporting events are always fun. There's a lot of, shall we say, a very spirited rivalry between the different colleges, and they're always good. But yes, but they're generally not part of your kind of academic activity, I think. But we do a few events. Will the recording of this webinar be, where will it be posted? We'll think about that. We'll probably post it on our website and send you guys a link maybe if you need it. How much time do you think online classes would run? That's easy to answer. Lectures are typically 45 minutes long, so that'll be the length of your recording. That'll be 3 15-minute videos. Workshops tend to be 1 or 2 hours long. I find 2 hours tough, I'll be honest. And I think most students do. So what I would typically do is I'd break them up into hour-long chunks. You wouldn't get anything shorter than an hour. And that would be online stuff. Labs, 3 hours, because they're really involved. And obviously, if we relax restrictions, there'll be labs. There'll be labs in semester B anyway. But okay, God, they're coming in thick and fast. This is really good. Just now, can I share a poll with you guys again? I'll continue to answer these questions. I'm gonna re-ask this question. Can you just, while I answer these questions, just click on this, and I just want to see if maybe I've allayed some concerns. If I withdraw to defer my offer, will I be eligible for a loan to cover tuition fees as an EU student? I'm not sure about that. Natasha, do you have any thoughts? That's very difficult.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for EU students, you can apply for a tuition fee loan for 2020 entry. There is still no final decision as to whether or not that will be the case for 2021. So I'm afraid I can't say with any certainty that if you defer, you would be eligible to apply for a tuition fee loan for 2021 entry. That's information that would come out from student finance. So you'd need to look out for that.
Very good. Oh, the poll is looking very good. So people seem to at least have had some concerns allayed. Where can I ask to send that email? I haven't got it. Actually, okay, so that person asking who wants the reading list, what you can do is email me. So my email is publicly available, but it is c.duffy@qmul.ac.uk. Just send me an email and I'll send you the reading list if you want it. Have I just made a terrible mistake? Am I going to get hundreds of emails? No, it's fine. Email me and I'll send you that reading list. Is the QML buddy scheme still open? I'm not sure about this one. Natasha, do we have a...
Yes, definitely. So the buddy scheme is when you get paired up and mentored by a student in the same subject that's a year or two above you. And yes, that's absolutely still open and will still be functioning. So we have a very good uni buddy scheme at the moment. You can chat to current students online. If you go to our website, you'll be able to chat to students online. And then when you start with us, you will be part of that buddy scheme and paired up with somebody in a later year that can support you during your degree.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. Does anyone... I mean, I'm here for you guys. You know, I'll answer anything if you like. Yeah, well, within reason. What I see from the poll, I'll share that with you, is that's very nice. Thank you. I mean, obviously, look, things are going to be different this year. I think teaching-wise better, but I'm glad to see that some of you are, you know, have been a bit reassured by this. Oh, another question. Do you recommend chatting to students online on UniBuddy, even if they aren't on the same course you applied for? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some amazing people on UniBuddy. This is one of the things. I mean, like your teaching, even your course is a part of university. It's a big part of university. But collegiate life, you know, the life of being at university is really, really important too. And you will find, and I found this as well. I had some friends on my course. I did physics at Sheffield back in the late 90s, but my friends and the people I kind of shared a house with and stuff like that, they were kind of doing history, business studies, kind of art and things like that. So actually, you know, you will be interacting with people on different courses all the time. And a lot of the experiences of people at university are completely universal. You know, I mean, if you want to talk about biology or whatever, then there'll be people on your course. But if anything else regarding university life, then yeah, just talk to them. They're really good, and they're really honest as well. They'll not give you you know, a sales pitch or anything like that. They'll answer it honestly. Where can I find out what the timetable may look like next year? Have you begun to plan it, or will it look similar to previous years? We are planning it. It's not yet finalized. It's going to be different. What we have typically for in-person teaching in previous years, we've had the hours of 10 till 5. So well, actually, that's not true. I've had 9 o'clock lectures. So 9 till 5, like office hours, basically, where we had physical teaching. We're still going to have a timetable like that. But we're going to expand that possibly a little bit more. We're going to schedule things kind of at times that are more suitable, that cover maybe more time zones and things like that. We're also going to have duplicates, and we're going to have recordings of everything. So we haven't the answer is we haven't finalized our timetable. We're probably going to use that as the basis for this one. Okay, any more? I think I've answered the one, will timetables remain the same each week in terms of days? Will the next year enrolling students have an opportunity to attend physical classes than online classes? Well, the next year. So does that mean students enrolling this year have an opportunity to attend physical classes than online classes? So again, that depends. So our plan is semester B is to have labs and classes and things like that. Semester A, if we're still under the restrictions that we are under now, in all honesty, it's going to be quite hard to run physical classes. You know, the Great Hall would hold something like 30 people. However, at 1 meter, yes, we'll have physical classes. So we're going to move our labs to semester B, and I've been told that basically if we go down to 1 meter, we'll now also have labs in semester A. We will have physical classes. You know, but we'll have to practice social distancing, that's all. So it won't, you know, it depends on this 1 meter, 2 meter question quite, you know, what semester A is going to look like depends quite strongly on that. I mean, it looks like current trends look like basically things are going to be relaxed a little bit. We're going to go down to 1 meter, in which case physical classes we're going to run. Of course we are. I mean, one of the things as a lecturer is I want to meet you all, you know, I want to kind of go and chat with you. And one of the things I really like is when I get my students to give presentations. Last year, I got my students to give presentations and they started out very nervous. They were like, you know, kind of, a bit nervous. And gradually throughout the semester, they got more and more elaborate and confident, to the point where the last presentation, one of the students had a puppet and props and little kind of like sparklers and things like that. It was insane. That's part of my job I love. And I'm hoping, you know, yes, of course, we want to see you. We're not going to go, you know, like I say, we're going to stick with this new system. We're not going to go to a system that's totally online. You know, that's distance learning. We are going to offer that to people overseas as an alternative package in the future. That's part of our 2030 strategy. It's called distance learning, but that will be distinct from our in-person degrees. If we resume on campus in September, would there still be Freshers Week for us to meet other students? So I think I answered that at the start, and there is an intention to have these events. These are run by the student union. There is an intention to run events. There will be some physical social distancing in place, as I say, but most events are run outdoors anyway. They're outside. So under 1 meter, that becomes very, very very feasible. Someone's just wrote, Dr. Duffy teaches on the biochemistry. Oh, I can say that. Okay, just out of curiosity, which course do you teach? I teach physical and quantum chemistry, because I'm a theoretical physicist, actually. I teach essential skills for chemists, mathematics. Actually, physical and quantum chemistry sounds awful. It's the most popular module. We love it. We routinely get kind of like almost 100% feedback. In biochemistry, I teach membrane proteins. I teach some masters, so the MSci biochemistry as well. I teach first year kind of like science writing and science communication. And I also teach PhD students as well, things like that.
Sorry,
Chris, logistics of the second...
hurry you up. I think we're going to have to start.
We're going to get booted off. Okay, 3 more questions in that case. How will the logistics of the second and third wave of Corona work, given that the students from all across the planet will come to be in the same place? Good question. The answer is we don't know what the epidemiology is going to be like. There is some suggestion that we have to be flexible, that if there is a secondary outbreak, we'll have to kind of lock down for a bit. I mean, we don't really know what the epidemiology on that is yet. There is some suggestion that actually kind of the disease is predominantly carried by just, most people are asymptomatic carriers anyway, but also there's evidence in New Zealand that you know, kind of there's been a slight increase. So we'll have to respond to that with your safety in mind, and if there is a second outbreak, there will be a second lockdown. Will coursework exam ratio change? Thank you. Yes, it will. The answer is alternative assessments. So it will be kind of, it will be online quizzes. It will be kind of deep thinking, kind of time limited writing exercises. It'll be things like that. So yes, it will change, and it will change like that for good. Thank you for holding the webinar. Fantastic. The last one, when Cambridge moved the whole year online, how is that difficult for Queen Mary to conduct face-to-face classes? I will say briefly that Cambridge went completely online. Oxford said, no, we're completely in person. I think that reflects more their political leanings than anything else. Cambridge could shut their university for 100 years and they wouldn't be affected, basically. They're going to go 100% online. We don't really want to, I think, and there's possibly, if we can meet you all in person, we want to, you know. Cambridge are being sensible and safe. Oxford, I think, are being a little bit cavalier. And again, I think that reflects their politics. I think we have to end it, guys. I'll put this online. It's been delightful interacting with you. I can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much.